Everyone knows about LEGO Star Wars, but believe it or not, there are actually more LEGO games than just LEGO Star Wars, and the first of these, outside of a weird LEGO Island game I've never heard of, was LEGO Indiana Jones. This game had a lot of differences from the old Star Wars games, since instead of being a Jedi, you're just a dude, but it had the same core goal: unlock and collect everything and complete the game to 100%. I'm a frog, and for this video, I tried to 100% LEGO Indiana Jones, but with a time limit. In my two LEGO Star Wars videos, this was 24 hours, but for this one, I decided to cut it in half to 12 hours since this game has half the levels of those two. So clock's ticking, let's hop in. Our journey begins in some place called South America, where we're hunting presumably for the Peruvian puff pepper, and after losing half of our crew to the many hazards of the jungle, the level begins, with us playing as Indiana Jones and Satipo. Alright, so a couple things. First off, you may notice in the bottom right that there's a timer. That's so that at every point in this video, you know how long I've been playing to that point. Second, this game also has you collect 10 mini-kits per level, except now they're called artifacts and look like treasure chests. My favorite part of the level was almost at the very beginning when Satipo got stuck and wouldn't follow me, and then after I finally got him across and started digging, Indiana Jones, for no reason at all, decided to sacrifice himself to Cthulhu. I did collect a couple more artifacts and things as I continued on, but a big difference for me with this game is that I'm not nearly as familiar with it as the Star Wars ones I've covered previously. I 100%ed this game like one time 10 years ago. What is bro doing? I did manage to collect enough studs to hit True Adventurer, which is just True Jedi from the other games, about halfway through the level, then fought an average-sized Australian spider and found this gold thing that looks kinda dumb and I wouldn't really want, but to each their own. The temple tries to kill us and we gotta escape, and there's a big boulder that chases you to the exit. This would probably be great in a movie. They should adapt it sometime. Indiana Jones gets greeted by a bad guy and a bunch of people who've never heard of electricity. He tries to pass off C-3PO's head as the idol, which they don't buy, and the rest of the level is us repairing a plane so that we can escape. Why didn't Jock already have it fixed? Is he stupid? That's level 1 done in about 15 minutes. Wait, why did my timer stop? Wait, what's happening? Why is there a mythological guy with horns on my screen? This is a LEGO video. Did I get like transported to something else? Who are you? I don't know what's happening, but it looks cool. Who are you people? Those were some of the new exclusive Raid Shadow Legends legendary Norse mythological characters: Loki the Deceiver, Thor Feyhammer, Freya Fateweaver, and Odin Feyfather, which you can get now. Asgard Divide is running from August 21st, so now, to November 22nd, and you'll be able to collect all 4 Norse characters. You'll even get Loki for free just for logging into Raid for 7 days between now and October 23rd, and you'll get even more rewards for logging in another 7 days after that. That's only Loki though. You can get all these characters just through in-game activities, and as part of the Asgard Divide, you can enter the event dungeon, a time-limited dungeon where you'll fight a bunch of stuff, including Odin himself. Raid is one of the best mobile games out there. I was really impressed by its graphical quality, presentation, and aesthetic, not to mention its classic RPG-style gameplay. Click my link in the description or scan my QR code to get insane bonuses available through my link. On sign up, you'll get this champion Tegawar from the Orc faction, and after reaching level 15, you'll get an epic grizzled Jarl from the Dwarves faction. Come find me under Frogarchist and join my clan, Frogarchists. Thank you very much to Raid for sponsoring this video. Next up was Chapter 2, which sees Indiana Jones fly out to Nepal to see this lady Marion, who immediately punches him in the face. Marion is our first female character, and all women in this game have the special ability to jump higher than male characters. Whoever came up with this has clearly never watched the WNBA. After unlocking the door to the outside, this guy shows up who's a Nazi, a member of an indeterminate 20th century German political party, and you have to throw some chairs at him. Then an orange dude with a gun shows up and you throw chairs at him. Then the man in black comes back with a gun, so you throw more chairs at him. Then escape to the outdoors where we watch Marion's bar burn to the ground. The rest of the level is honestly pretty boring. You just run around snow and solve basic puzzles to progress. There is an artifact out here for building 3 snowmen that I went ahead and got because there was no reason not to. I hit True Adventurer. At one point I walked by this weird dude who was stuck upside down in a cave, and over half an hour into my playthrough I finished the second level. Next stop was Cairo, Egypt, where Indy tells Marion to look at a photograph because every time he does, it makes him laugh, until suddenly a pirate shows up who's mad at the Americans for having a cooler pyramid in Memphis than any in Egypt, so his pet monkey steals Indy's photo, but using his quick wit, Indy realizes that monkeys are stupid and tosses a banana to get the monkey to drop the picture. Unbeknownst to him, though, the whole thing was a plot by the Mujahideen, but he saves himself and Marion, and that's how the level begins. So yeah, this level introduces us to monkeys who you can trade bananas with for whatever their holding. Like the first one has a wrench which you need to repair something to leave this area. In Area 2, after fighting off dudes who still use swords even though machine guns exist, you trade another banana for a shovel that lets you build a ladder and grab a key. In Area 3, we ran into more generic German soldiers riding camels. I made another mutually beneficial exchange with a monkey, hit True Adventure, pushed this green bowling ball, found one of the purple studs that's worth 10,000, destroyed people's private property, and got to this area where another mechanic comes into play. When you kill one of the Yahtzee officers, they drop their hat, which you can put on yourself, which is all it takes to disguise you as one of them and let you enter German-only areas. With this level of OPSEC, it's no wonder they lost World War II. From there, you steal a truck and run away. One of the most famous parts of the movie happens. Marion gets kidnapped and we continue on to the desert. I never noticed this until now, but they literally gave the German soldiers blonde hair and blue eyes. You may not say it, but I know what you are. So yeah, we find this thing called the Well of Souls with our new best friend Sala, who also coaches the New York Jets, and thus begins the 4th chapter. I lose a couple minutes at the very start because I paused the game to contemplate the life choices that led to me grinding a Lego game at 3 in the morning, then carried on. Indiana Jones famously is afraid of snakes, and this is the first time in the game where that comes into play. There's snakes everywhere, and if he walks too close to them, he shrivels up like a little bitch and moves at 1 mile per hour, so you have to do most of this first room with Sala. Using a book, we can activate these panels on the wall that give you a sequence of 4 hieroglyphs that you have to give back in order, kind of like that game Simon. There's a puzzle where you move these platforms and jump around and place diamond things in the eyes of this cat. In the next room, you place these yellow orbs into holes, then you find the Ark of the Covenant. Indy and Sala managed to get it out, only for the David Hasselhoff enjoyers to show up and steal it before throwing Marion back in the well too and locking them in. The rest of the level is mostly just puzzles. I did get this artifact down below and hit True Adventure at the same time. The level ends with a boss fight against a giant snake that all you have to do is throw torches at, and then Indy and Marion find their way out. The next chapter starts with them scoping out the Ark of the Covenant before getting found out by a couple of schnitzel eaters, and the level begins. This first area is actually kind of tedious. You just go around fighting Germans and putting together 3 different parts of this track. It was also lengthened quite a bit by me trying to destroy absolutely everything for more money, but still, it couldn't be my fault that I didn't have fun. Nothing is ever my fault. The rest of the level doesn't have much interesting happen. You solve some puzzles and grab some captain keys and have a boss battle with this guy who looks like a stereotypical 1930s villain. Man, gotta stop Indiana Jones, see? The way you beat him is by holding up anvils and letting him punch them because he's stupid, and after he gets torn up by the plane, Sala shows back up and the level ends with jumping between cars and trying to get the Ark, which you succeed in, and Indy and Sala get it to a ship that ends up getting hijacked by a U-boat, and the Germans once again have it. But Indiana Jones boards the U-boat and disguises himself as one of the Germans. Fun fact, this actually wasn't in the film script. Harrison Ford just happened to have one of their uniforms and showed up to set wearing it one day, so they decided to include it. It's up to him and Marion to save the day and stop the Covenant from reaching the Ark to fire the rings, or something like that. In every level to this point, I've gotten True Adventure, and this one is no different. I got it before even leaving the first room. When you go back out to the arid Badlands, you repair a truck and solve a puzzle where you get the right tiles to turn white, which lets us grab a bazooka and carry on. Indy and Marion get captured but break free, and you have a final boss fight with Belloc. There's a couple of pretty easy artifacts to get here. I didn't even know about them beforehand. I just goofed around and found them. For Belloc, you just jump to wherever he is and punch him in the face, and that's that. In the cutscene, they get recaptured. The Germans open the Ark of the Covenant, which makes God upset, and all the Germans die horrifically, especially for a PG-rated movie. Chapter 6 is done. The Ark is secured in a warehouse by top men, and that's Raiders of the Lost Ark through with in just about 2 hours. I do probably need to pick up the pace a bit because not only do I have to beat all these levels, but I have to go back through later and get all the collectibles. But I didn't really know what else to do next except move on to Temple of Doom, the happy-go-lucky Indiana Jones movie about an Indian death cult where we begin in Shanghai, China, a year before Raiders takes place. Indiana Jones has a business meeting that goes south and drinks poison like an idiot and needs the antidote, and the level begins with us as Indy and Willie. Alongside being able to jump higher, her special power is the ability to break glass just by screaming. So in this opening, you have to run around and find diamonds and throw them at the bad guys until you eventually get the antidote, and after drinking it, Indy sticks out his weirdly realistic tongue, and you escape by riding through a window and a giant gong and fall into a car where you meet Short Round, Indy's Chinese boy sidekick, who's a much better character than his actual son. There was an artifact I remembered up here where you build this door, and once it's built, it opens up and the artifact appears. Very simple. But this area is all about getting parts to fix your car, fighting some more James Bond villains, grabbing a wrench, and putting the car back together again. I grabbed enough studs for True Adventurer, fixed up a plane, and got on said plane that very clearly had Lao Che's face on it. That's the bad guy. Indy grabs a raft and does the stupidest thing in movie history, and we end up in an Indian village that had their sacred stones taken. Chapter 2, Pancot Secrets, is oddly one of the longest levels in the whole game. The entire opening bit is just us making our way to the palace where you have to ride elephants and repair bridges. I did notice this raft at one point off the beaten path you can build that takes you over to this patch of land with a bunch of studs and a treasure chest to dig up. I traded it again with a monkey, and before I knew it, we were in the palace. The crew sits down for dinner where Indy gets a hamburger, Short Round gets a hot dog, and Willie gets a monkey brain before Indy inquires about the stolen stones. Apparently, this was a bad thing to do because everyone else leaves, then some bad guys show up and the level continues. This second part of the level just has us make our way through the palace where I continue to break everything I possibly could in my quest for more money. I did find an artifact just by breaking a plant, so that was cool. After using another book and building some stuff, you find a secret passage to the underworld in phase 3 of the level. So since this level is really long, but there's not much happening for me to talk about, I'll tell you the story of how I first played this game. My dad bought our first Xbox 360 in 2006 or 7 so we could play Halo 3 when it came out. Then fast forward to 2008, my grandpa, I guess, didn't know I already had an Xbox 360 or something and bought me another one that came with the game bundle, Lego Indiana Jones and the Kung Fu Panda game. I'm guessing there's at least one of you watching who had the same thing. After a bit, we run into this evil ceremony where a guy gets dropped into lava, and that's chapter 2 finally done after 23 minutes. We spot the stolen stones, Willie gets kidnapped, and off we go into chapter 3. I got to grab a sword, then one of the thuggies dropped their turban, which let me activate a thuggy statue and grab an artifact. I activated this bridge with torches, which honestly took me longer to figure out than it probably should have. Built up this thing, parkour, fall to my death, and make it to the scary place with the stones and Willie. In order to save the most annoying character in a movie full of child actors, there are levers you have to pull that require some jumping and building, yada yada. You do a boss fight where you just activate statues and then he explodes. Next, we encounter children that are playing Minecraft in real life against their will, and it's our job to free them, so we run along the underground railroad and break this kid out that they had in a cage like a bird. This is unironically the worst part of the entire game. You have to transport this thing across the platforms by dropping it, jumping to the next one, then whipping it back towards you. The problem is that Indy is stupid and you'll whip it and he'll do some stupid animation that gets him close to the edge to when I turn around, he just walks off. Very annoying, but after throwing my controller, I tried it again and I got it. We free another slave from a bird cage, fight some more death cultists, free a whole lot more slaves, and run into this guy who's got Short Round behind bars. The problem with him is that when you start damaging him, this little piece of garbage gives a magical spell that fully restores all his health. So instead of fighting the actual boss, you have to free Short Round and let him beat up the evil kid. Then you can turn your full attention to the big bad, who for some reason decided to camp in front of a rock crusher. So after I took him down all the way, he got turned into Flat Stanley. Chapter 5 of Temple of Doom is actually really neat. The start of the level is just you repairing a minecart in the track so that you can raise it up on a platform, then the rest of it is recreating the minecart chase, except there are a few panels you have to hit along the way to progress. It's a nice little change up. I got a lot of money. It's real short, good stuff. The gang exits the minecart only to see that there's a giant flood on the way, which is less than ideal, and after running for 5 seconds, they get washed out onto a cliffside. There's not much to talk about with this level. I got over 100,000 studs on it, so that was cool. It ends with a boss fight that took me longer than it probably should have. Basically, all it is you fight a few goons, and the main guy jumps down and tries to Kali Ma you, during which you have to switch to another character and punch him. For whatever reason, I just couldn't switch characters fast enough and he kept jumping away. It was kind of annoying, but whatever. I eventually got him and I took down his hearts, and the bad guys started dropping swords that you can throw to take out the bridge's supports. And after a solid few minutes, I managed to get him and take out the bridge, where Indy knocks him off down below to get eaten by dinosaurs. The stones are returned to the village and everyone lives happily forever after, and that's Temple of Doom, done now about 3.5 hours in. That leaves me with one movie left, The Last Crusade, which starts with Indiana Jones receiving a package from Sean Connery before going to Venice to meet Dr. Schneider, who they assume is a dude because it's 1938, but actually turns out to be a blonde chick named Elsa. Something something frozen, something something let it go. This level is all about us wrecking a perfectly good part of the city, followed by visiting a museum where I made sure to destroy books in an effort to fight big literacy, and you find these boxes and put them in the middle until you reveal a giant X. After dropping a chandelier through it and jumping into the hole, we explore this ancient underground tomb place until we find Sir Richard and inscribe his shield for some reason. I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since I've seen this movie, but oh no, a guy with a hat from Squidward's Cult shows up, so we gotta leave Dick the Knight behind as the best cinematography in any Lego game ever happens. I'm not being sarcastic. This looks like a handheld camera. It's amazing. And we have an epic showdown to end the level. You just drive around a boat and punch him a few times, it's whatever. Indy threatens to murder him with the boat propeller if he doesn't say where the other drugs were going, so he whips out a picture of James Bond in the Excalibur Hotel and Casino. I just realized editing this that level alone took me almost half an hour. How? Instead of advancing in the story though, I took a detour back to the City of Danger level in Raiders. The reason being that towards the end of the level, there's this book panel that opens a door to the Mos Eisley Cantina, where I got to see Chewbacca, one of 5 hidden Star Wars characters throughout the game I'll need to find. But more importantly, I can get this part parcel. Parcels take the place of red bricks, giving you the ability to buy extras. This one is for treasure times 2, doubling the value of every stud you pick up. So back in the college, I bought treasure times 2 and then continued on the last crusade. We show up at the castle where Indiana Jones disguises himself as Fabio before just punching the butler in the face anyway. The bad thing though is that this castle is full of Nazi Johnsons of the Kansas City Chiefs to fight through, but I carried on destroying and building some stuff until Elsa and I busted through a window where Henry Jones hits Indy in the head with a vase. Elsa reveals she's with the Germans. Papa Jones reveals to Indy that they're Eskimo brothers. They're tied to a chair and they break out by starting a fire. So we work our way out, then eventually get on the outside part of the castle where more Germans are waiting. You grab a bazooka and blow some stuff up, and that's that. This leads us into Motorcycle Escape, where, you guessed it, you fix a couple motorcycles and make your escape. It's supposed to be a high-octane chase by LEGO standards, but it wasn't for me because I wanted to collect as many studs as possible, which involved running over plants and driving in circles. There's this bit where you go to a farm and build stuff before having a final battle in this area where you rocket some bunkers or whatever, and then they drive off to take a blimp, which leads us to Chapter 4 where you're on said blimp. Unfortunately, a bunch of Germans board without tickets, so it was my job to kick them out by throwing glass bottles at the main guy, which leads to him being tossed out the window in the best part of the actual movie. But the Hindenburg turns back around, so they steal a plane, crash, and we once again have to escape. This is another level that honestly I found kind of boring. You just run around and build and repair stuff, which now that I'm saying this, I realize that's all you do in every LEGO level ever, but in the other ones, it's more fun. I don't know. I can't explain. You would not understand. Are all these your guitars? We run into flocks of government drones that mess up German pilots, and Sala shows back up and drives us to Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is an interesting one, conceptually. Half the level is in this first area just trying to build a vehicle to take down a gate. Then after you accomplish that, the rest of the level involves fighting a tank. You just build bombs and he drives into them like an idiot. Later we have a fight on top of the tank, and bada bing bada boom, we're on to the final chapter of the Last Crusade. We're outside of the temple that houses the Holy Grail, but lo and behold the Germans are here too, which honestly I'm not even upset about because there's much worse things the late 1930s German military could have been doing instead. Inside the temple there's a series of puzzles you have to complete, firstly by placing these blocks, then as you advance you find a decapitated German and are ordered to tackle the perilous path to the Grail yourself, starting with a bunch of obstacles that try to murder you. I had a lot of trouble with this part in particular. I just couldn't jump down below. I was scared of falling. Next up, I had to spell out Jehovah except with an I instead of a J because Latin is weird, I guess. Then if you haven't seen the movie, you'd be very confused here because you're supposed to take a leap of faith and walk over a bridge you can't see. This brings us to the Grail chamber protected by an unnamed knight. I'll call him Paul. King Kraut rushes in and drinks from the wrong goblet like an idiot, and for some reason in this version, Paul starts trying to kill us, so you have to deal with that while finding the actual Holy Grail. You have to activate this book panel and then it's in the back. It's the unassuming cup. Indy drinks out of it, doesn't die, then takes it to his dad that got shot. Elsa tries to leave with it and dies, and that's the Last Crusade. 5.5 hours in, and I finally finished each story level. Now it was time to start grabbing collectibles. First things first, I needed to buy 2 more characters to be able to get everything in free play. A bazooka trooper, which would let me get into German areas and blow up silver objects, and a thuggy character to let me activate thuggy statues. With that, I began on the last chapter Raiders for the reason that its parcel was the artifact detector, which places arrows showing you where the artifacts are on each level, making finding them way easier, obviously. So to be clear, I started by choosing levels with parcels I wanted, but while I was here I also went ahead and grabbed all 10 artifacts as well, because there was no reason not to. This level's parcel, you just need a book for, then you push these things around and jump on them, a door opens up with the parcel, and easy enough. Collecting all 10 treasure chests on a level builds a big artifact, like for this level you build the Ark of the Covenant, which goes on display in a room in the college and gives you a bunch of studs. Next up, I went to Temple of Doom's first chapter, grabbed all the artifacts there, and delivered its parcel on this contraption, which was kind of treacherous to walk on. That parcel is for treasure times 4. That was it for parcels I wanted to go out of my way to get for now, so I went back to the very start of Raiders and I did the levels in order. The first level has this room with a barrel you break open to reveal C-3PO. The artifacts were easy to round up. The parcel's kind of sketch because you have to dodge falling debris, but it's worth it because it unlocks Fast Fix, which makes repairs way faster. Chapter 2 features a visit from Santa Claus, who leaves us a parcel for Super Slap in the snow, and we break Luke free from the Wampa Cave. I did realize there was another parcel I really wanted, the parcel detector, which is on the first chapter of Last Crusade, so I jumped ahead to that one. Back to Raiders, chapter 3 I already had the parcel for from earlier and found Chewbacca, so I just needed to grab these artifacts. I did make it all the way through the level before realizing I had missed one and had no clue where it was. So I backtracked, and backtracked some more, until I saw this arrow in this section. And it was then that I realized where it had been the whole time. Well, of Souls, Artifacts, and Parcel. Boom. Then I take a pit stop to the Mine Chase level because its parcel was treasure times 6 and I can afford it now. So I got that one completed, and after buying treasure times 6, I now had a total multiplier of times 48. Now let me tell you about pursuing the Ark. I found all the artifacts just fine. Nothing too bad. I came across this pond where I blew some stuff up and there was a raft and it appeared I needed to just run over ducks. The problem? This one in the corner would not go down, no matter what I tried. I was here for many minutes just trying to get them down and nothing was working. It wasn't registering me running them over. I googled other people doing it and they had no problems. I tried seeing if it was a known bug and got nothing, so after getting the other artifacts I needed, I restarted the entire mission and made my way back here and did it again, and it magically worked. That was really annoying, but whatever, that's all a raider's done. And I am actually showing this out of order, so in between before I restarted the level and got that artifact, I didn't want to repeat it right away because I was fueled by rage, so I went into Indy's office where you have to put together a thing by using every special power there is, and upon doing so, you get a key for use in the artifact room. Later on, this will let me play 3 different bonus missions. But yeah, so after that, I went ahead to Motorcycle Escape for the ×8 multiplier, found R2-D2 on the tank level from Last Crusade alongside all the other collectibles, got the Grail Temple and its stuff, and wanted to just finish off the Last Crusade from there, so I did the level where you start in the Zeppelin, followed by the castle level, and that's it for Last Crusade. Temple of Doom was the most boring out of all of them. I'm not sure why. Maybe just because I already had all the parcels I needed and it just felt like I wanted it to be over already. I found Princess Leia on the Free the Slaves level, and that was my last Star Wars character. Finding them all lets me unlock Han Solo as a playable character. Otherwise, I got my last artifact and parcel on the last Temple of Doom level, and that's all of them collected a little over 9 hours in, but we're not done yet. I made a pit stop to the library to buy every single character except one I found out you don't get until after you finish one of the bonus missions. But speaking of the bonus missions, I now have to go to the artifact room because they're the last things I have to do. The first one is called Young Indy, and it's the sequence at the start of Last Crusade with young Indiana Jones, and let me break the fourth wall for a second. Going into this video, I decided on the 12-hour time, but if you have 2 brain cells to rub together and know I only have 3 missions left, you can probably gather that I'll easily do this in under 12 from here. So I considered changing the premise of the video to under 10 hours to make it more dramatic. I thought that would be dishonest though, so I didn't, but feel for yourself to get hyped and curious over whether or not I get under the 10-hour mark. So yeah, this is just a standard LEGO level, nothing interesting happens and you aren't missing out on much if you haven't played it. And after that, I could buy the last character I was missing, so now I had every single character. Next up was the warehouse where the Ark of the Covenant is stored, and you have to run around and collect 1 million studs. I figured out though that this target in the corner you can just grenade over and over again for infinite money, so I did that. Last was the Ancient City, another level where your goal is to collect 1 million studs, except this time I actually had to interact with the whole thing and do a bunch of nonsense to achieve that goal. I'm not gonna go over it all. It's just a random assortment of things to blow up and build to get money. I collected my last studs at the 9-hour 49-minute mark, which, unless I mess something up, puts me at 100%. Pausing the game confirmed it, so there you go. 100% and not just 12 hours, but under 10. And now I can play the game for fun again. Thanks again to Raid for sponsoring this video. Be sure to download it through my QR code on screen or link in the description for exclusive bonuses. If you like this video, click the one on screen to see me 100% another LEGO game. Thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel. They're top men. Top men.